This has been a weekly feature of mine. While men sit on the internet and discuss why feminism is tearing up families, why women just aren't choosing the right dudes, women are really facing serious threats to their bodies daily. There are so many women and so many stories that I can't get to them all. So I try to compile these news articles once a week. So that's your basic trigger warning. There are challenging topics that I'm about to discuss right now. This isn't a woman, but a girl. An 11-year-old was raped by her stepdad. She gave birth at home in Oklahoma. An Oklahoma man is facing charges of child actual molestation after an 11-year-old girl in his orbit gave birth in her home, and her mother is accused of enabling abuse in a case that a local assistant district attorney called possibly the most serious I have ever prosecuted. The charges that the Muscogee County District Attorney's Office filed against Dustin Walker, who's 34, on Monday came after a DNA test confirmed he was the father of the newborn at the center of the case, the Oklahoma news outlet KWTV reported. These two need to be under the jail for what they did to that child. I did talk about this woman's story last week, but I'm going to talk about it again because I didn't realize that there was no argument. The system failed this woman. So it says in June, Latricia Green pleaded for a protection order from her ex husband. It was denied. She asked again in July. It wasn't served. She was pew-pewed and unalived by her ex husband this morning in a Detroit hospital. Obviously, it wasn't this morning, but she was doing what they say you're supposed to do, like Janaea says right here. Why don't you leave? Why don't you go to the police? Why don't you get a restraining order? She did everything right and still lost her life. She was failed by everyone who ignored her pleas. She did what she was supposed to do. She tried to get away, like people say, get away. But these people that act like they're going to be protectors and providers, once they lose control of their supposed property, this is what they do. This is what they do. Women are not safe. I want to do part of this article that was talking about how she filed the protection order. This is Latricia Green's own words. She says, since I was denied, he has now been able to break into my car and cut up my clothes, shoes, and steal belongings from me. And he followed me on multiple occasions and has tried to break my car window, she wrote. I noticed him following me from Oak Park all the way back to the city and on Woodward and the Boulevard. He continued to try and turn his car into mine and block me off. He's continued to call my job and said he will not stop coming after me. Why was she failed? Why do people not take women seriously? She says, I've tried being cordial because I feel that the system has now let me down each time that I've tried to make reports on this man. My father was murdered, and now with this situation, I am now in mental distress and scared, not knowing what to do. I have to constantly look over my shoulder and make sure this man is not following me to hurt me like he's done in the past with physical abuse. I'm asking for help before this goes too far. The judge denied her, and then when they did decide to finally grant her, they sent it through the mail or something. And not to say that even having a protective order would have done anything to stop this man, but this man was able to just walk into her job with a firearm and harm her and take her life. This is an article coming out of India. It says too many women choose death over divorce. The Indian retreats taking the shame out of separation. It's wild that this is necessary to remind women that they don't have to take their life, that divorce is an option. But it says divorce is not an end, but a beginning, says Rafia Afi, who gets women together to change ideas about toxic marriages. This is from Nihai Bhatt. It says, on the bus making its way through Kerala to the misty hills of Vagaman, a group of 15 women, many wearing hijabs and dupattas with colorful shirts pulled over jeans, hum a melodious tune, clapping and swaying in rhythm. Once off the bus, the women start their hike through the lush tea plantations. Reaching a peak, they stop to face out over the vast valley, link hands, and sing a hopeful song about newfound freedom. When you have to talk about getting away as freedom, that tells you how dire some of these situations are. This is India's first divorce camp, founded by 31-year-old Rafia Afi for women who are divorced, separated, widowed, or suffering in their relationships to come together at a healing retreat. The idea is to normalize divorce and give it dignity. Divorce can be beautiful too. When two people decide they don't want to be together, I want to remind people it doesn't have to mean the end of your whole life. Her own divorce last year pushed Afi to slowly embrace being on her own. I started creating content on social media, speaking about healing and single parenting. Many people connected with that and began messaging me. It was disturbing to realize that not everyone had a support system like I had with my family and friends. Most of them faced judgment and could not speak up, she says. It sparked the idea of break free stories, divorce healing camps designed to build a community of women who could connect with others going through similar experiences. Afi has been documenting the camps in Kerala, from the backwaters of Alappuzha to the fishing port of Kozhikode, also known as Calicut, on social media. 2-day nature themed retreats held a few weekends each month, accommodating 15 to 20 women from different backgrounds and costs of upwards of 1,700 rupees or 15 pounds, though Afi offers a few free spots for those unable to pay. Each camp begins with games to break the ice before moving into activities such as hiking, dancing, and music sessions. Zaki J, a musician and lawyer, was initially invited to conduct music sessions at the camp, but she realized that many participants, particularly survivors of DV, were looking for legal advice as well. I started conducting legal sessions to bridge the gap. Many blamed themselves for breaking up their families by contemplating divorce. The objective is to break societal norms around gender abuse and educate every woman on her rights, divorce, and safety laws. My mother died at the hands of my father. That pushed me to become an advocate to fight a case against him. I want to help others take the right step at the right time. Now let's talk about rural America. So this is from The Conversation. It says rural women are at a higher risk of violence and less likely to get help. I have been teaching a criminal course on rural criminology since 2014, and most of my students are surprised by the information on violence against women presented to them. Due to a lack of media attention to rural areas, my students come to class with the impression that all countrysides and small towns are safer than urban and suburban locales. In reality, rates of violent crime are often higher in many rural communities, and at times there's even more silence around it. Nearly 50 years of research shows that male violence against women knows no geographical or demographic boundaries. It occurs among small socioeconomic groups and in almost all communities, regardless of their size and locations. Yet, crime in rural and remote places is reported to police at lower rates than urban areas. Most criminology scholars do not study violence of any type in rural communities, partly which contributes to the widespread belief that rural women are safer than their urban and suburban counterparts. Media reporting also overlooks brutal forms of violence perpetuated by men in intimate relationships with women. Research also shows that rural women in the U.S. are more likely to be taken out by their current or former male partners compared to their urban and suburban counterparts. A study looking at data from 2005 to 2017 across 16 states, for example, found that homicide rates are higher in rural places. Another rural Ohio woman told Short to me about the violence she suffered in her relationships. He'd come home and pull a double barrel and cock both barrels and say he was going to take me out. It was like, wait a minute here, it was 2 o'clock in the morning. Research conducted since 1988 has identified several reasons for rural women being at higher risk of violence compared to those living in urban and suburban places. These include geographic and social isolation, widespread acceptance of violence against women, and community norms prohibiting women from seeking social support. What makes it even worse is the absence of effective social support services and higher rates of firearm ownership. I'm not even going to put any of the words that I see from men on social media in this post because I don't give a damn. Women need protection, and there are just way too many stories out there. Please make sure to share and keep on sharing your articles with me and tagging me in posts. I only do this once a week. These are definitely challenging stories to get to, but continue to like, comment, and share.